On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're getting some delightful Easter and spring-inspired hosting tips from our favorite tastemakers. First, author and lifestyle expert Kimberly Schlegel Whitman invites us into her stunning Dallas home, where she shares her secrets for creating a gorgeous Easter tablescape. Then, we head back to Hillside Farm with Ruth McKeaney, who walks us through her Easter brunch preparations and showcases her beautiful springtime table decor. Next, interior designer Cher Beall invites us back into her stunning California home, where she'll share some fresh and fabulous Easter decorating ideas. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
If you're looking to make your own space more homeworthy, we've teamed up with Cherish, our go-to online destination for chic, one-of-a-kind finds, sourced from the world's most wonderful vendors.
Mercury drops are from an artist I found on Cherish.
Whether we're after a bold statement piece or the perfect finishing touch, Cherish has extraordinary items that leave a lasting impression.
This table I bought on Cherish from Berlin, and it has a little bit of it's a tray, and it is mid-century, and it's one of my favorite pieces.
It's where we find iconic looks to set homes apart.
I think many dealers would agree that Cherish is the absolute best.
So to support Homeworthy and discover amazing items from Cherish, scan the QR code or click on the link below to start shopping.
Oh, hey Homeworthy, I'm Kimberly. I'm about to set the table for Easter. I'm here in my party pantry just grabbing a few things that I'm going to take into the dining room. Come with me.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Schlegel Whitman, and I'm an author and lifestyle expert. I live in Dallas, Texas, and welcome to my home. I'm glad to have you here. I'm excited to tell you all about some of my favorite Easter traditions. In my most recent book, A Loving Table, we featured 34 women and all of their favorite family traditions, all of the things that they learned from their mothers, their grandmothers, aunts, women in their lives. And for the chapter that I was doing about my family traditions, I chose to share our Easter traditions because I have such fond memories of Easter celebrations with my big extended family. And one of the things that we love to do is have a very special family meal together. And I've combined that with my absolute obsession and passion for tablescapes. And so today I'm going to show you how I like to set the table for Easter. And I love to incorporate all of the little things that hold childhood memories for me and that are meaningful for my family. I also love to put things on the table that remind me of childhood Easters. So little things like sugar diorama eggs and little hand-painted eggs with our names on them that I sometimes use as place cards. All of those things bring back memories when I pull them out of the storage, and to me that makes the table feel extra special. A few years ago, I was going through some old recipes of my grandmother's, and I was baking with my daughter. She absolutely loves to bake. And I posted on social media this handwritten recipe of my grandmother's, and I don't know what it is. There's something about seeing someone you love, their handwriting with a recipe. It just gets you somehow. And so I posted about that, and I got a huge response, including from my friend Shelly Johnstone, an interior designer. And she was coming to Dallas, and we were scheduled to have breakfast together. And when we were having breakfast, she commented on that post, and she said, I really, felt the love there, and I felt my grandmother and her recipes and all of the ingredient of love that goes into those meals that we think of doing year after year with our family. And she said, that should be your next book. And I said to her that I loved the idea, but I really didn't want to do it by myself. And why didn't she do it with me? So we kind of became co-authors right there at breakfast. And instead of sharing only our own family traditions, we decided to reach out to women all over the world and compile some family traditions that would inspire the readers to either reflect on their own traditions and help them remember the things that were meaningful to them that they could revive with their own families, or to maybe find inspiration to start new traditions based on what they were reading about and seeing in the pages of the book. So we're in the dining room now. I've got the table ready to be set. So the linen is on it, it's been pressed. I have my flannel liner underneath, which is a must-have, especially with a white tablecloth. And I'm excited to set the table. We're setting for 12 for a family meal for Easter. And in the days ahead, I usually prep by putting out a folding table. I've picked out my plates, my silver, my glassware, linens, and then I pulled a couple of little fun things from around the house that I want to use in the middle of the table as well. But I also have another table set up over here in the hallway, and it's got everything we want for the centerpiece. So I went ahead and started the skeleton for the egg tree here. And I'm going to take it over to the dining table, watch my eyes with this one, and we'll set it in the center of the table. I love the shadow that these egg trees make on the white tablecloth too. It's so fun. It's almost like a part of the pattern, and it makes such a pretty design. So usually I use some blooming branches. This year they're not blooming quite yet. So I found these pussy willow branches at the market. I've got a flower frog in here covered in moss, and I've just stuck them all in there, and I'm going to start hanging my eggs from the egg Easter tree. So I have part of my collection of my hand-painted Easter eggs here that I love to hang from my Easter tree every year. The first one that I got was a hostess gift that someone brought to me as a thank you for hosting them at our annual Easter egg hunt that we do with my family out at our ranch. And I mean, it was so amazing and intricate and detailed. It was just in a little terracotta pot with a small branch, and it was hanging from it, and it was so charming and beautiful. I became obsessed. I was traveling pretty soon after that and found some hand-painted eggs when we were in the Czech Republic. And I thought, well, this is a great thing. What does a collection need to be made of? More than 2, more than 3. So I started my own collection and started my little Easter tree tradition. And I just kept adding to it. I found these amazing artists in Austria who make these, and they're all different. And it's really cool because the more you have, you start to see the differences. You can tell which artist makes which design. They're all made from real eggs, and they're extraordinary. Like this little lamb on here is actually 3-dimensional and fuzzy and so charming. And you can tell that he made this one. The same artist made certain ones, which is really fun. A lot of them are florals. I have 2 favorite styles. One is like this, and they also have this 3-dimensional quality, but it has a cross-stitch design on it. That little chick is made of cross-stitch on the egg. It's just so special. And so it needs a good spot. Let's find a good spot for it. So those are one of my favorite styles. My other favorites are hollowed out, like this one right here. And it looks like a basket of flowers, and you can see the little openings in the egg. I mean, it is so fragile. It feels like it's about to crack just as I turn it around like that. But that one's fun too because it has some glitter. But just being able to admire the craftsmanship on it and enjoy the beauty of them on the tree is so much fun. And it's such a unique centerpiece for an Easter table. We've had lots of egg casualties, which is really sad. But, you know, you just, if you don't use them, if you're so scared of breaking things, whether it's china or your eggs like this, if they sit in, you know, the attic packed away or in the cabinet packed away, then you'll never get to enjoy the beauty of it. So as sad as it is when you have a casualty, you know, it's worth the risk because we get to enjoy them every year. When it comes to entertaining and when it comes to my home, I tend to kind of obsess over the little things. And I really, really love for things to be meaningful and not only decorative. So when it comes to the home, when it comes to the table, instead of just laying out a typical centerpiece or a tablescape, I really like to mull over what could make it unique and what could make it special and add those little touches. And it's those things that I think make guests in your home feel extra special and feel like you've put thought into their arrival and you're excited to have them. Those are the things that I think really set apart a special table. So the centerpiece is in place and the next step is the placemats. I have these charming little wooden bunnies that we've used for a few years now that make both the children and the adults smile. They're so cute. These little wooden bunny placemats are so charming and cute. They come from my online store, Trunk Curated, and they're a great little base, especially when you have a lot going on, to kind of ground each of the place settings. They come in white and blue, and of course in this sweet baby pink color. And they're adorable for Easter. They're cute also for, you know, a little baby shower or a little girl's birthday party or something too. They're fantastic, and they wipe clean, which is also really nice when you have a big group. I love every holiday, and of course, Christmas is way, 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 way up there, but Easter is just really one of my favorites. I mean, I love everything about it. I love the egg hunt element and the children kind of going nuts and racing for eggs and finding joy in that. And we always start our egg hunt with someone special to us reading the Easter story, the true Easter biblical story. So the children have a little reminder before they go run and go crazy that, you know, we're really there to celebrate something more meaningful than just finding the golden egg. Although the golden egg part is fun too. So I'm going to start setting the plates. And I'm using a pattern here by Waterford that has been around for a very long time. I just find it really like sweet and whimsical and charming. It's new to me. This is my first time to use it. I've been eyeing vintage sets for years, but I've never won any of the bids that I've placed on them at auction or managed to find any fast enough at estate sales. They're always sold by the time I find them. But I just added Waterford to my online shop and made a little personal purchase once I saw these and found them. I just love them. I'm also really excited to use these plates because they're dishwasher safe, which is great when you have a big crowd. My mother usually likes to contribute to the cooking at Easter, but she only likes to cook 2 meals a year, Christmas and Easter, for the family. So we eat the same things that she had with her family growing up. So maybe because we never really vary the menu, I have really, really strong memories attached to the Easter menu and the Christmas menu. But we always, I always try to be the first in our family's buffet line to get to my mother's amazing sweet potatoes that she makes in a skillet with more brown sugar and butter than you can imagine. But I let myself have them because we're only doing it twice a year. But they're so delicious, and it's just really, really fun to have the scents and the flavors and all of that going while you're with your family on those special occasions, and just makes it all feel special. Every time I set the table, and I set the table a lot, I still have to use my little tricks. And I had to think BMW when I put the bread plate down. So the bread plate goes on the left because you go in order: BMW, bread, meal, water. Another little trick I have that I've taught my children too, so that they can be helpful when they're setting the table, is that the fork goes on the left and the knife and spoon go on the right. To remember it, you remember that fork has 4 letters in it, F-O-R-K, and left has 4 letters in it, L-E-F-T. Knife has 5 letters, spoon has 5 letters, and so does R-I-G-H-T. This flatware I love, and I ordered it in a large quantity for when I have events that are bigger, maybe a cocktail buffet or something like that, because it's not very expensive, the price is right, and it's dishwasher safe. It has the look of that spectacular Tiffany Audubon, but it's called Japanese bird. I really wanted to have a pattern that was easy to wash, that I could have more than my typical 12 of, because when we have larger groups, it's nice to have all the same pattern. People ask me sometimes where I developed this kind of obsession and passion for creating beautiful tables, and I don't really know. I reflect on it sometimes, and I think to myself that I thought everybody had that same obsession and passion, but it's just something that's always been a part of entertaining that I enjoy. My mother and my grandmother, they both loved beautiful things for the table, specifically porcelain and ceramics and silver. And so I grew up just seeing those things used often and being enjoyed. And my parents and grandparents loved to entertain so much too. Family gatherings and entertaining were always something that were happening and that were meaningful and special in my home growing up. But I also think I'm a little bit of a frustrated artist. I wish I was a better painter. I wish I could, draw things in a more beautiful way. And so for some reason, the table has become a bit of a blank canvas for me. And it's something where I feel I can create and add color, and kind of my brush strokes are the different things that I add to the table, and it's kind of hard to mess it up. So I think as long as you're being thoughtful and having fun and trying new things and creating a beautiful table, you're kind of being artistic. As helpful as those little tips are with the rules of what goes on the left and the right and so on, it makes me sad when I hear people say that they don't really like to set the table, or they're worried about messing it up because they're so afraid of breaking the rules, or they're intimidated at a fancy restaurant and they don't know what piece of flatware to pick up. But the truth is that those rules of etiquette are there to make us feel better, and I think today anything goes. So whatever you think makes your table look the best, or will make your guests feel the most comfortable and confident, or works for the food that you're serving, I think that's what you should do, and not get too hung up on all of the traditional rules of etiquette. So I love playing with table settings, and it's such a fun creative outlet for me. And I always start, of course, with the occasion, but then when I think about the menu and what we're going to be eating, that kind of guides what I choose for the table. So it's so important to, if you're not serving a salad, then don't put the salad plate out, or the salad fork. If you're serving soup, you want to select a pattern that you have a soup bowl in, or that a soup bowl that you have will mix and match with. So a lot of times I start with just kind of getting a grasp on what we'll be eating, and then picking the rest of the selections from there. But sometimes I'll just get so excited about a certain vase or container that I want to use in the centerpiece, or a certain flower that's going to be in season, that I really want to do something with, and I'll let that inspire me. So the inspiration always comes from different places, and but of course the menu dictates what you need to have out. If you're not serving bread, you don't need a bread plate. So I picked a block print napkin because I love block prints. I'm super into the white tablecloth look. I love it, but it can feel more formal. So I thought if I added in a little bit of color with this fun block print that pulls the colors out of the plates, the pinks and the greens, that it might give a slightly more relaxed feeling to the table. Now that I have most of the table laid out, I'm going to go ahead and work on the rest of the centerpiece before I put my crystal glasses out. That way I'm not reaching over the crystal, maybe accidentally knocking one down as I'm, playing with the center. So I'm going to go ahead and bring those things out and then add my glassware at the end. Okay, this is my favorite part. This is really when the fun starts to happen, when you get to play. And I started by making some little tulip arrangements in these silver cachepos that I treated myself to one time when I saw them. I just absolutely fell in love with them. And normally I put a potted plant inside of them, but the tulips were so pretty when I was at the market. So I went ahead and just bought a big bunch of them. So I'm going to put them there. There's a pair of them. So I'm going to put them on either side of our Easter tree. I had to use a little bit of coated chicken wire inside because the tulips, they're a little tricky. They didn't want to stay exactly where I had them. So I just bunched up some chicken wire that was coated and into a little ball and put it inside of here to give the tulips something to grip to when I put them inside. And then I've also made some little nests on these beautiful Bourg-Joly faience cake stands to hold two of my favorite sugar diorama eggs. So the basket that we made the egg tree in is also Bourg-Joly. So I like that I'm kind of like balancing it out, the silver and the faience. Sugar diorama eggs are so charming and so sweet. The ones that I have here are like very extra, very fancy. These are made by an artist. Her name is Dawn, and you can find her at Sugarscape Eggs. And every year I add to my collection from her. One year she made me one that has my dog Zeus inside. And I was over the moon in love with it. And sadly, it didn't survive, as long as most of hers do. So I ordered another one. I have another one coming this year, and then I'm also going to surprise our children. Dawn's making us one that has our chicken. We have a pet chicken called Francie, and she's going to be in one of the eggs as well. So I'm really excited about sharing those with the kids. But her work is extraordinary. I mean, she's truly an artist. It's really exceptional. I remember having this kind when I was young, a little, still as charming, just as sweet. Sometimes they would have our names on them in icing, but, lovely, but Dawn's are really special, very elevated. So my tabletop collection is really, my husband would call it an obsession maybe, and he doesn't necessarily like that it's spilling out of the cupboards all of the time, but I just can't ever seem to stop myself. I find my china and porcelain everywhere. So I always have my eyes out for something that resonates with me and speaks to me. Some of it belonged to my grandmother, some of it I borrow from my mother when I'm tablescaping, or my sisters. And we do like to share, which is really fun, and pass it around so we can all get use out of different patterns. But I look at auction, I look at estate sales, I look online, I look in local boutiques, and I actually have an online tabletop shop called Trunk Curated, where we do trunk shows that I've curated by Tablescape or by Extraordinary Brand. And it's a really, really fun way for me to take these brands that I love and kind of answer the question about how you would use it and what you might use it with, and feature it on the site, and then share it with friends, family, followers on social media. And it's so joyful for me to see someone else take a little bit of an idea that I might have shared on Trunk Curated and make their whole family celebration come to life. I'm putting out these little cabbageware. They're terrines, but they're so sweet. These mean so much to me. My father found these for me in a little antique store when he was traveling, and put them under the Christmas tree for me one year. I just love them. So every year for place cards, we use these really charming little ceramic eggs that are made in Dallas, actually, by a local company called Camille's Creations. And everybody gets their name and the year on here, and they're always unique. So we use these as the place cards. Everyone gets to take them home and pull them out every year and decorate with them. We don't have this year's yet, so I'm just going to use these as decorations in the middle of the table, kind of as little memories of years past. I'm going to mix them in a little vignette with the little cabbage terrines that I put out, and maybe even stick some little heron eggs or bunnies nearby them. All right, let's see how that looks. I couldn't resist getting out my new little gold Jean Roget frogs. I'm going to use them as salt cellars this time and put them on the table. I have 6, so instead of being individual salt cellars today, they will be for pairs. So those 2 can share. Okay, it's time to get our glassware down. And I always like to pull out the best on the holidays. And I may or may not take these away at the seats that the children have. We'll see how they're behaving that day. But these are from Saint Louis Crystal. They were a wedding present, so it always means a lot to have them brought out. And these are by Mosier, one of my favorites. They're so light and so delicate and really great for daytime. I love it because they're not big, so you can just have a little bit of wine in there, and then I'm going to serve my water in these today. So one of my favorite things to do at Easter is pull out my little collection of heron bunnies and eggs and chicks and little lambs and put them to good use. I love to use them as decoration on serving trays. Sometimes I'll do this to a silver tray that's holding glasses and serving drinks, or I'll use it on a silver tray with hors d'oeuvres. Today, I'm going to show you how I'm using it on this darling little cookie tray or dessert tray. So these are so charming, and I love the way they accent a tray, but if we're going to be moving the tray around, I don't want them to fall over or break. So I use my favorite hostess's tool, which is called Museum Wax. And it's fantastic because it cannot harm any of your things, but you just scoop a little bit of this. It's like waxy. It kind of feels like dried glue, kind of has a putty feeling. You don't need very much, so I'll just make a little bit. I'm going to put it on the bottom of my little heron egg here, and then stick it on the tray where I want it to be. So you just shape it like you want it, attach it to your figurine or whatever you're attaching, and then put a little pressure on it to attach it to the tray. That way you can pick it up and show it off. In this case, we're showing off these gorgeous cookies, and we let our sweet little bunny and eggs be the embellishment on the tray. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to take my flower arranging to the next level. And so I went to Paris and I went to the Catherine Mueller Flower School, and it was an extraordinary week, one of the best of my life. My sister came with me, a few friends came with me, and we had an absolute blast. She has this beautiful floral boutique in Paris, and you go down these fantastic winding stairs into this extraordinary cave underneath the shop where she does her classes. And I would recommend anyone who's going to Paris, look her up and find some time to go there. She does classes by the day, by the week, or for the year. And it's a life-changing and very joyful experience. And I learned so much in the time that I was there, and I couldn't recommend it any higher. It was fantastic. And it's fun, so much fun, really, to take the little moments and memories I have of that trip. And sometimes when I'm using a certain flower, I can almost hear Catherine saying it in her French accent. And it was also fun to learn the names of the flowers in French, because she sometimes wouldn't know the English name, and we'd all share and collaborate that way with all the names of the flowers. So that was fun as well. But the thing I really remember about my time there, when I'm arranging, is that she would always say, just when you think you're done, you bring one more flower in and you let it tell you where it wants to be. And you kind of imagine it being the butterfly that floated in and is now topping off kind of the cherry on top of the arrangement. And I always can picture Catherine saying that every time I'm making an arrangement. I try to think of her, and it's very inspiring. And you know, she taught us to let the flowers tell us where they want to be instead of us telling the flowers where they want to go, which was a huge lesson for me. So setting the table for friends and family is definitely my love language, for sure. It's the way that I like to show the people that are sitting around my table that I am excited to have them there, that I've taken joy in preparing for them to come, and that I'm looking forward to sitting around and creating memories with them around the table. I also find it like my daughter's way of showing me love, in a sense, when she participates with me. It just like fills my heart like nothing else when she takes interest in making the flower arrangements and setting the table with me. And it just, I mean, with my kids, we always use this phrase about filling each other's buckets. And when you fill someone else's bucket, it fills yours too. And I feel like that's what happens when we set the table together as a family. It just, I don't know, it's so heartwarming. And I don't know, it's my little way of just preparing the space and making it special so that we can sit down, have meaningful conversations and great times together over a great meal. And I love to cook when I have time, but I don't necessarily have the skill in cooking that some of my other family members have. So I usually let them take over with the food, and setting the table is my way of maybe contributing to the meal as well.
Welcome, Homeworthy. My name is Ruth McKeaney, and it's so exciting to have you back. Today we're going to be preparing a fabulous Easter brunch. I have all 5 of my kids home, my dad, my brother, and some family friends. So you get to join us in making all of the ingredients for that. Right now we're heading to the chicken coop where we'll be collecting eggs for the quiche, and then later we'll be going into the barn to create a fabulous tablescape. Come join us. I'm Ruth McKeaney, and this year I'm inviting Homeworthy to join my family for all of our annual highlights at Hillside Farm, our 305-year-old farmhouse steeped in history and love. After decades of flipping houses, my husband Bob and I settled here where we raised our 5 children. And this year you'll join us for holiday gatherings and the upcoming wedding of our daughter, happening right here at Hillside, where we welcome your company as we share in the simple pleasures of life at home. I'll offer tips from my book, Hungry for Home, to help infuse your own home with moments of joy, filling home-cooked meals with flavor for the whole family, and of course decorating with amazing antique finds. So sit back and make yourself at home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
All right, welcome to the chicken coop. I always told my husband I could live in here. He built it over COVID. The original chicken coop was sliding off the foundation, and one night a fox got in, killed all 25 of our chickens. So my husband thought, COVID, perfect time, and he rebuilt this masterpiece. He did everything, it's fantastic. So let me show you where the chickens live. We've got about 20 right now. They're inside and outside. So I personally have not named our chickens, but my kids have. So if you ask them at any point, they can tell you their names, which is really fun. What we did when we purchased them is I wanted laying hens and I wanted multicolors for the eggs. And that's what we get. We get some that are blue, some that are a little more green. We'll get some brown eggs and some white eggs. You know what's really fun? Right now, we're so fortunate. They have been molting, and I have had to learn what molting means. It's that time, I call it when the girls take a break. They lose a lot of their feathers and they stop laying for a while. They have just started to relay, and of course it's Easter time. So we get to be the beneficiary of that. All right, I've got most of the eggs. We have some more up there, but enough to start our quiche. So let's go on up to the house. Come on. Come on, girls. They're in. They're eating. Oh, here they come. Come on. Here they are. We're going to be doing out of my cookbook, which is called Hungry for Home. Here's what we're going to be making. We're going to be making a fantastic cheese quiche. Then we're going to make something called the Gold Rush coffee cake, which is beautiful, and I promise your family will love it. And then we're going to be doing a candied bacon, just something a little bit different for Easter, and a big bowl of berries. So here we go. We're going to start off with the Gold Rush coffee cake. Oftentimes, my kids ask for this coffee cake over a regular cake on their birthdays. That's how much they love it. It's beautiful. It's great for presentation. And here we go. All right, the Gold Rush coffee cake. Here's a picture of it. You can see it in the cookbook. It's on page 111. I had a coffee cake at a restaurant, and I loved it so much. I came home and looked everywhere I could for kind of a knockoff recipe, and then I played around with it, and this is the recipe we've come up with. So here we go. We're gonna start with 2 sticks of melted butter. We're gonna throw, this is the streusel portion. So the streusel will be going in the middle of the coffee cake as well as on the top. So, got the melted butter. We're gonna add to that 2/3 cup of light brown sugar. Throw that in there. All of this kind of gets mixed up together, so it doesn't really matter order. But go ahead and mix that butter and brown sugar. After that, we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Get that all in there. And a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And a 1/2 cup of regular white sugar. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart, I will tell you, but it's fantastic and it's worth it no matter what. All right, finally, we're gonna take 2 2/3 cups of flour and add that. What this is gonna turn into is just a crumble. And like I said, it's gonna go in between on the coffee cake and on top of the coffee cake. Sometimes you can just throw your hands in here, although I haven't taken off my rings, so I will spare you from me doing that. There we go. All right, see, it's turned into a crumble, and because of all the butter, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Okay, we have finished our crumble. Now we're going to do the batter. Before then, I've gone ahead and I have preheated the oven at 350. You need to make sure that's done. Then we've got a bundt pan. We're gonna go ahead and grease that. I just spray some Pam on it, but you just don't want it to stick because you have to flip it at the end. So we've got that ready, and here goes the batter. Oh my gosh, this is so good. All right, we're gonna take 1.5 sticks of butter, and we're gonna combine that with 1.5 cups of sugar. Now, it's important that you whip this butter and this sugar for 4 to 5 minutes. We're gonna make it a little shorter, given that we're doing this for TV, but it needs to be light and airy so that your coffee cake really rises. All right, after those are mixed, and again, you're gonna do that longer than I did. You're gonna take 4 eggs that are at room temperature. Look at the size of that egg. I think that's a double yolk. It's a double yolk. I know, it's amazing. They're so beautiful. All right, we're gonna take 4 eggs. I'm not gonna use the double, well, let's use it. It's a double yolk. I feel like that's good luck or something. So here's a question I'm just thinking about while we do this. Does a double yolk egg equal 2 eggs? I don't know. I'm gonna do it as 2 eggs just because the whole size is bigger. All right, we're gonna mix those 4 eggs. Get that all mixed in. And here, we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Get that all mixed up. Now, I know, well, I'll tell you about that in a second. First, we're gonna do our sour cream. We do 1 1/3 cups of sour cream. Let's get this in here. I mean, sour cream makes everything moist. I love sour cream in my cakes, in the coffee cake. All right, here we go. I'll tell you, I am not an exact baker. Probably would not have passed a baking course. Oh. All right, here we go. Sour cream is done. Mix that up. All right, to that, here we go. We are gonna add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Put that in there. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Let's mix all of that up. And then you add the flour. And the flour, let's see, is 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. It is ready. Oh my gosh. I mean, who fights for these? I fight for these. Let's mix this. Here comes the fun part, the assembly. And I'm gonna spray just a little bit more. Make sure you spray the whole thing of your bundt pan because it has to come out and then flip over. We are now going to put 1/2 of the batter down in here. This coffee cake is so good. First of all, I make this coffee cake basically for all brunches that I cook for. Christmas, Thanksgiving, I serve it with quiche, I serve it with scrambled eggs. And like I said, even my kids have chosen it over a regular cake occasionally. So we've got half of the batter down. And let me show you what you do next. This is how you get it in the middle. You take the crumble that you've already done and you crumble it all around. Take half of this. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Then you're gonna take the remainder of this batter and put it all the way around. Let's see. Oh my gosh, your kids, your family, everybody's gonna thank you. You're gonna thank me. Have this with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee in the morning. Just rewarm it if you want. We are gonna put the rest of the topping on top. This is then gonna go in your oven for about 40 to 50 minutes. I check on it and I touch it because I don't want it totally solid. There's a reason they call my food barely baked, and that's because I really like things to be moist and I don't like things overcooked. But 40 to 50 minutes you should be good, depending on your oven. All right. Let's put this in the oven. Okay, we've got the coffee cake in the oven. Now we're gonna get started on the quiche, which is one of my very favorite things, probably because we eat so many eggs and I love eggs. But it also has a great story behind it. We have a French bakery nearby and I typically don't love quiches, but this bakery, they are amazing and they're thick and the crust is incredible. So I asked the baker one day, I said, what's your secret? So she gave me a couple of tips, which I'll share. And then the crust, I think it's really important if you can to make the crust. I've already made this crust, but again, it's in my cookbook. It's called A Very English Crust. And the reason it's called that is one of my very dear friends years ago, this older woman who has since passed, was a caterer in the area. And before she died, she gave me some of her recipes. And one of them was her English crust. I call it the English crust. But I use it for both quiches as well as pies. And what I love about it, it's so easy to make. I'll make them in advance. I'll make them into balls and put them in freezer bags and freeze them in my freezer and pull them out as I need them. So you're not having to make them all the time. I literally right now have 4 or 5 crusts in balls in my freezer. So I hope that's a good hint for you because otherwise it just gets too hard. You're like, I can't make a crust. You can, it'll take you 15 minutes, throw them in your freezer. So we've got the crust made ahead of time. And we're gonna start with the inside. Here we go. So it calls for 8 eggs. Here we go. Now, I don't know if you know the secret, how many of you get shells when you're cracking eggs and you chase it with your finger all the way around and you can't get it out? So maybe it's because I have chickens, but I've learned the way to do it. If you get a shell in your eggs, what you do, take a piece of your shell. There's a membrane in here. Stick it down there. It will draw that shell in here and you just scoop it out. It's really amazing. Anyway, it's one of my favorite little tips of having eggs. All right, here we go. All right, we've got 8 eggs. After the eggs, you're going to take sour cream. I think this is what makes it really rich. You have a couple of options. You can do heavy cream or sour cream or a mix, an equal mix of both. Today I'm gonna do a little mix, I think. So going ahead and doing 2 cups. It's not very attractive looking. And put another cup in here. Funny little story. I was getting ready to do this segment. I had all my ingredients in the fridge and I go to get the sour cream out and my daughter had taken it to go make breakfast at a friend's house. So it caused a little bit of a delay. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna add heavy cream. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this up and then add the rest of the stuff. All right. I like to use kosher salt, a teaspoon of that, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. Kind of looks like a half, right? And then we're gonna take a pinch of nutmeg. I don't know why, but the nutmeg really is nice in it. All right, a pinch of nutmeg. And go ahead and really mix this up. We are almost done. Now we bring in the crust. This was one of the secrets they told me. Here we go, about a cup and a half of cheese. I can kind of eye that. Cup and a half of cheese, coat the whole bottom. And I think this is one of the things I love about it. I'm doing a cheese quiche. If I wanted to do, I could do a basil quiche. I could do quiche Lorraine. Play around with this. Add basil, add different kinds of cheeses, add goat cheese, add some meats, add ham. It's the basic recipes here, and you get to play and have fun with it. My favorite kind of cheese to use on this is that it's a sharp cheddar. It just gives a little bit of a kick. Then we're gonna stick it in the oven at 375 degrees for about, depending on your oven, I have one oven that's temperamental, one that works great, but look at it between 50 minutes and an hour and see if it's done. Sometimes about 15 minutes before it's done, I'll put tin foil over the top just so that the crust doesn't get too baked. So we're gonna put it in the oven. Okay, one of the things I love about holidays is you get family coming into town or friends that you haven't seen in a while. One of those people is my brother, and I'm excited to have him come do the bacon with me. John, where are you?
Coming.
My brother Jonathan's in town visiting from Denver, and I'm putting him to work in the kitchen. You know what I've loved, and I think because our kitchen is the center of our house, people are always going in and out, and they're part of the process. It's not like food magically appears. They are in here and they're helping, and that's what makes it all fun. So Jonathan, I'm gonna put you to work.
Got it.
All right, here's what I need you to do. We've cut the bacon. You have thick cut bacon. I've cut it in half. It's just easier to manage when it's in half. I'm gonna put it here. You're gonna take the bacon. What we've got here is 1/3 cup of maple syrup. We're gonna put that, you wanna put the maple syrup in there. In this bowl, we're gonna put 1/2 cup of brown sugar. We're gonna put 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I think it just gives it a little bit of kick. And then we're gonna do a teaspoon of coarsely ground pepper, which I have right here. Now, we're gonna mix that up with our fingers. You wanna go ahead and mix that up with your fingers? Jonathan loves to cook, so it's kind of fun to have him doing this. Now, what I've prepared is a pan. Take a large cookie sheet, cover it in tin foil, and then take a cookie, one of those cookie, what are they called? Cookie trays where you cool your cookies? Okay, full disclosure, somebody has taken my cookie thing, so I'm using the rungs that are inside the oven. But what it does is when we lay the bacon, it allows the fat to drop through onto your tin foil and not mess with your bacon. You got that all mixed up?
Good to go.
So what you're gonna do is you're going to dip bacon, both sides, into the honey, and then lay it down onto the rack. We are going to then sprinkle with this stuff, if that makes any sense. Jonathan, it's so much fun to have somebody here who's been a part of most every Easter of our lives, I think. Our mother started a tradition when I was probably 5 or 6. And she started something, what we call the hunt. It is now almost 50 years later. I think it'll be 50 years in the next couple of years. This hunt has taken place, I think 50 years this year or next year. This hunt takes place has taken place all over the country. We've done it, and get me if I'm missing anything, we've done the hunt on Capitol grounds in states. We've done them in amusement parks, zoos, museums, huge areas in flower shows. We've done them everywhere. And what my mom started to do, my mom understood the importance of memory making and bringing people together. And so she did all these riddles. The whole family would gather, you'd get your riddle, and you'd go to the next riddle, on and on all day until you reached your treasure. That tradition has multiplied that by, I mean, we've had 60, 70 people do this before. People have come from all over the country to participate in the hunt. And my mom passed away 17 years ago, and my dad took up the mantle, and my dad started doing it himself. My kids, if you ask them one of their favorite holidays, Easter is it. You know, I think we already get together with our family and friends on Easter, but this makes it an experience together, which anyone who knows me knows I'm all about memory making. And I'm telling you, so how this happens is we all get together in the morning on Saturday, the day before Easter. Somebody, my dad, or, you know, usually, now Jonathan has helped him, but he goes to the location ahead of time. He goes probably up to 2 weeks beforehand for 2 to 3 days, thinking through riddles. He then comes back, we're divided into teams. We've even had like handkerchiefs that are different colors that tell which team you're on. And you always start out with some sort of activity to determine which team gets to go first. You can't have everyone go into the Philadelphia Art Museum at the same time. So we've done everything from chasing and catching chickens, three-legged races.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you. Here, let me move these all together. I'm forgetting my job. So you get there, whoever comes in first place gets to go in first, and the race starts. This lasts until the final treasure is found. The treasure has been in the ocean. It's been in the middle of lakes. It's been in fireplace stacks. It's been everywhere. And again, it's one of our very favorite family traditions. And it's an experience that nobody forgets. I mean, there are friends that have come decades ago that still talk about it. So the treasure is, first of all, every team has to contribute like $10 or $20. So the first person who sees the treasure actually gets to win the money. The treasure is just a huge black bag of every kind of candy, granola bar. I mean, it's junk, it's gum, but the point is you have spent all day trying to find the treasure. And then we all go out for a huge Mexican feast and margaritas, and we just have a wonderful night. And ordinarily the next day on Easter, you know, my dad does a service often because we're all here together, and we have a huge Easter brunch, which is what we're preparing for you today. So in this particular recipe, what I've given, it's a pound of bacon, but I'm doing about 3 of these, depending on the number that come, but we're a family that loves bacon. So I'm doing actually some regular bacon as well as candied, so I make sure I please everybody. All right, we're almost done that. And we're gonna take this mixture, which again has that cayenne pepper and regular pepper and brown sugar, and we are going to just kind of drizzle it. You wanna go wash your hands, or are you good? You can just stick it in here. We're gonna drizzle it over everything. It just gets crispy, and it's sweet, and it's bacony, and it's got a little bit of heat to it. It's fun to do something different. I mean, I know you can all go get the spiral ham at the grocery store, but this is kind of just a fun, bring your kids in. I mean, you can have a 2-year-old do this. For them to get their fingers in this is really a lot of fun. So today we're doing quiche, coffee cake. This, big berries with maybe some coconut yogurt and granola. You like everything.
I do.
But you had to go a bit gluten-free, so you might be not doing my coffee cake.
No, but I do remember the coffee cake, and I love the coffee cake. I am a big berry guy, so anything Ruth makes with berries, I absolutely love. So I'm looking forward to that.
This is going to go in the oven at 350 for 40 to 50 minutes until it's crispy. And you know, initially I was like, why do we put it in for so long when I can do it at 450 degrees and do it fast? It's because you don't want the sugar and to get too dark. If you put it on a high heat, that sugar is going to cook so fast and blacken, and that's not what you want. So 350 degrees, 40 to 50 minutes, you want it nice and crispy. All right.
Gotcha.
Well, it's not ready yet.
Not ready?
No, because the quiche is in there. This will go in the oven as soon as the quiche is out. You know, Easter is that time where we're leaving winter and we're starting spring. All things are new. It's a great opportunity to draw your friends and your family together and to celebrate what Easter is really all about. And then in the process to make new memories. You know, our hunt has lasted almost 50 years, and for those who have participated, it is a memory they will never forget. They talk about it every time we're together. They've come from all over the country to participate. And you can do something as big as that or as small as the egg hunt in your yard. But I encourage you to do something. And so many cities now even have scavenger hunts that you can find on the computer to help you. It doesn't have to be you coming up with the riddles. So the other reason, and you remember this, you know, my mom died, who started that hunt, died almost 20 years ago. And she was in her 50s. And one of the gifts I was given, and this is one of the reasons I think Easter has become really important to me. It honored her. She started the hunt. But somebody gave me 100 daffodil bulbs at her death. And I thought, why are you giving me daffodil bulbs? They don't come up until Easter, and she died in September. And the card the person sent me, I will never forget this. They said, you know what? We want you to remember every Easter, our faith believes that's the resurrection. Your mom, we believe, is in heaven. And when you see those daffodil bulbs come up at Easter, you're to remember that every year. Every year, every home we've moved to and redone, we have planted those 100 daffodil bulbs. So just know this is a special time of year. Celebrate with your family, and God bless all of you.
Once you experience the hunt, it is something that is second to none. It's just an incredible experience. It brings out the creativity of the riddles. It brings out the competitiveness in us to.
But how do you
try to
did you do that as a child?
No. What we did, we did what was the traditional when you were little kids, is having the Easter egg hunt in the backyard, but nothing taking it to the next level of just bringing large gatherings of people together. And like Ruth said, it doesn't need to be large gatherings. It can be just your intimate family. And how do you create something fun and creative in that way?
And something that happens year after year. I think Bob started doing the hunt when we were dating. Yes. And I mean, that was one of your first, that was right before my mom died. So you got to experience that. And it's been fun since Dad has taken over and does all of the...
Yeah, because your mom was leading the hunt and her brain doesn't work the same as mine, so it led to a lot of frustrations with the riddles going...
Her riddles are crazy.
I'm an engineer, I don't think that way.
And my mother was a creative, and they would rhyme and it'd be poetic, and we would be sitting there going, what the heck is that? So yeah. But
no,
fun.
It's been an amazing experience, and what I love about it too is my kids are so involved with it. Even when they are 1 or 3 or 5, we are pushing strollers around, jogging strollers, and running as fast as we can with the kids in tow. And they're part of the experience. And they make it a part of it that the riddles are never hidden above a certain height, so the kids can find actually the next riddle or the next clue. So it's really intentional with making sure that everybody is involved.
I think what's been fun too, and I don't mean to interrupt you, is someone who's 2 years old can enjoy it as much as somebody who's 80. There was one time we were going to be doing the Art Museum of Philadelphia, and the contest before was to run the Rocky Steps. And my uncle, who was probably 85 at the time, was racing on one of the teams, and his daughter took a tumble down the stairs. She was my age. And he ran past her and was like, hope you're doing okay, and just kept on going. So I love that everyone participates, and it's a memory-making opportunity. So that's what I encourage you, Homeworthy, and thank you again so much for celebrating with our family. I get asked all the time what I put on my island, and I love to bring the outside in, and I love fresh herbs year-round, even if I can't grow them because it's winter. So get a fun container. This was bought, it was given to me by a friend. She bought it at an antique store. I think it's like a mug of some kind. And then I throw in parsley and basil. I've got a cup of water in there, and I can use it for cooking at any time. So just any kind of wooden, you can fill this with little tomatoes. I have avocados. And again, I usually squeeze a lemon every night into a hot drink, so I love my lemons. But this brings me to Scotty. Scotty is my third daughter, and she's incredibly good at all things calligraphy. She's the one who's calligraphied inside of the barn. And I was trying to figure out, how can I do name cards, place cards for the table we're gonna be sitting at? And I thought it would be fun to do it on our fresh eggs. So if you want to try something like this, get an egg. They're not hard boiled. You can't really hard boil fresh eggs. I mean, you could hard boil it, but you wouldn't be able to get the shells off. That membrane needs time to separate. So we're gonna go ahead and do these fresh so I can use them later in scrambled eggs. And what she is doing, make sure it's dry and at room temperature. Because they're fresh, they can be at room temperature. And she is writing each person's name. This is Audrey. And you'll see when we go into the barn how we're gonna set the table with these eggs. Thank you, sweetie. When did you learn how to calligraphy?
I don't know, actually. I have no idea. I've kind of always known how to do it.
She's always the one that writes beautiful. And in fact, in my cookbook, a lot of the fun little vignettes were written by Scotty when she was younger. Okay, the coffee cake is ready to be taken out. Let's go. My goodness, this is gorgeous. All right. And it'll be warm when it's served later. It's piping hot right now. I would not flip it right now. I'd give it a couple of hours and let it get a little bit of cool, otherwise it'll just fall apart. So we're gonna let this cool. We're gonna be eating in a couple of hours, and we'll flip it right before then. The quiche is still cooking. The bacon's getting ready to go in. I think it's time to go down to the barn and do our centerpiece for the table. Let's go. All right, it's time to go down to the barn. Gosh, it's sunny out here. And we've got the eggs that my daughter did all of the calligraphy for the tablescape. But before we go is my very favorite place. It's the herb garden. And if you look closely, things are starting to come up. You can tell winter's leaving and spring is coming. And we'll be doing this garden pretty soon on another episode. But my husband made each one of these by hand and prepared kind of a garden right outside of my door. All right, to the barn we go. Oh my goodness, can today be any more spectacular? And what I'm excited, we're doing something completely different in the barn. Usually we have a long table that goes the full length that seats 32. And I thought since we're only having 12 people, it would be fun to create a square. So that's what I've done. I've put all 3 tables together and we have a perfect square. So now we're gonna put the flowers together. We'll make the bouquet in the very center. So I'm very fortunate. One of the great things about having a lot of girls, and it's not that my son doesn't help, but my girls know exactly what I need when we're gonna throw a party or do something fun like today. So they've already prepared everything for me, and they'll come later when we're gonna set the table. But I wanna tell you kind of what we're gonna use on the table. First of all, I love color, especially, I mean, spring is here. It's the time for color. And I have family that lives in Park City, and there's something called the High West Distillery, and I thought these bottles were beautiful. So I'm gonna fill these with water. They'll go on the table to serve water. I borrowed from a friend who has really fun antique glassware. I just asked her if I could have some 12, they're not all matching, but just glassware that I'm gonna put a special little drink in. And then I always use a fun placemat. I love these. Again, they just remind me of spring. All right, so the first thing we're gonna start in this barn is the centerpiece. And you can really complicate a centerpiece. I love to create bouquets of a single type of flower, but lots. It just has, it's simple and elegant and beautiful. And I thought, I mean, what represents spring more than tulips? So, since I don't have any tulips growing yet, the place I always get my tulips are at Trader Joe's, I have to confess. But here's what you're going to do. Pull out your tulips. You're going to determine how long you want by choosing your vase. When I was trying to prepare for this, I went over and over what kind of vase, what would be the right height, given how big my table was. And actually what we've chosen to do is I've put this, it's a wooden, kind of a wooden step thing. I don't know another word for it, that we're gonna set this on, and it's just gonna elevate it a little bit. But I decided, since I'm having a square table, to use this vase, which is a little round. It's just a little bit of a contrast. Inside of it, I put a bowl of water. Now, how do you do tulips? First of all, you're gonna wanna get rid of the leaves that are at the very bottom, because they're gonna rot in water, and you just don't need those. Go ahead, take those off. You're gonna cut all of your tulips at an angle on the base. That gets them the most water. And can I just tell you, I think these are the greatest shears of all time. I had a friend give them to me. I mean, precision and amazing, and I've had them for years. I was trying to look up the name of it. If you look up Japanese shears, these are gonna come up. I can't pronounce the name for you, but these are fantastic. All right, getting back to the flowers. So cut all of them, same length, same distance. And then we're going to fill this so that it's cascading, so that it just fills the whole center of the table. Tulips are also beautiful to do in a clear glass. I just didn't have one big enough to do what I wanted to do. You can also do something called using a frog. I did this the other day. I had never used a frog, but a friend of mine loaned me hers. I'm going to take them out of these flowers right here. It's called a frog, and it's kind of, I guess, instead of an oasis, but you can stick your flowers so that they stand up. I'm not wanting mine to stand up in this particular thing because I want it to cascade. It's also important to change your water every day. They drink a lot of water. It's fun. I've even used outdoor containers, you know, your big black urns that you use outside. I've used those inside as a centerpiece of a table. Well, at least where I live in Pennsylvania, we don't have any flowers yet. So I go to one of my very favorite places to get flowers. I mean, it's Trader Joe's. It's one of my secrets. Actually, I do a lot of fun tips like this on my Instagram, which is Hungry for Home. And on Tuesdays, I do something called Tip Tuesday. And I just try to tell, you know, little tips, household tips, cooking tips, gardening tips. And that was one of them. I get a lot of my things at Trader Joe's for this. You know, you do anything. Okay, doesn't this look amazing? I just need to make sure from every direction it's even, but I mean, oh my gosh. This makes me think of Easter. Even just flowers can transform a table. and just create a mood. So I love it. I love it. The height, you have to figure out your height when you're determining your table, but I think this is going to work perfectly. As I mentioned before, I had to run up to the house to see if the quiche was ready, and the quiche is ready. So, I think I also said sometimes I have to put a tin foil on it so the crust doesn't get too cooked. I mean, look how beautiful. Gosh, that's gorgeous. Okay, so I thought it'd be fun to come up with a really interesting, different way to do, place cards. So, as I said earlier, Scotty wrote names on each of the different colored eggs. And here's what I'm going to have everyone do. I'm using a white linen napkin, and then you roll it like this. And we're going to turn it like this, so it's almost like two rabbit ears. And take a piece of this raffia, I'm not sure what it's called. But you can get it at any craft store. In fact, I went at 8 o'clock last night. Take this raffia, tie it right here. So there's a small hole. And tie a bow, you can tie a knot. I'll probably tie a bow. Or you could just cut it short. Here we got this, and I'm going to take an egg. This one's Audrey's, and I'm going to set the egg right here in the hole. So, little bunny ears, and the egg is like there, and we will set it from there. I've called in the troops, I've called in all the kids, and everyone's going to come help set the table. Okay, I've talked about before a lot of color on the table, especially for Easter and spring. So I'm grabbing some raspberries, throwing them into each one of the fancier glasses. And you can do a Prosecco, I'm going to do a sparkling pink lemonade. It just adds just one more element of color. And then I'm going to cut some lemons for the water glasses. All right, happy Easter, everybody, and thank you for coming, and thank you for celebrating Jesus' resurrection with us. So thank you. Love, family, and friends. So, Lord, thank you for this food. Bless it to our bodies, and thank you. Just thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, everyone, sit down. Let's eat. They're not hard-boiled.
Hey, Charlotte, they're hard-boiled. Try it.
Homeworthy. I'm Cher Beall. Welcome back to my home in Southern California. I'd love to share with you today what I've done for Easter.
Watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Wedding Worthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Today I'll be sharing a few Easter vignettes, and then we'll head down to my craft room where I'll share with you some fun and festive Easter decorations. But first we'll start here in my formal entryway. I didn't want a pastel childish look. I needed something more sophisticated. So you'll notice how I decorated everything very, very neutral and very subtle. So for instance, I used cherry branches that are blossoming and these lovely champagne colored eggs, and it just makes a simple statement. We used some little wooden bunnies and lots of candles, and then I made, out of 2 grapevine wreaths stacked on top of each other, I made what looks like a giant nest. And in it, I've got ground cover, some little flowers, and some giant ostrich eggs. So it just gives us a very subtle but classic Easter look without looking too childish or too pastel. Just to provide various heights among my objects, I've used books to elevate different objects. For instance, I've got these little vintage books, a funny little snail on top, and then these old archival books that have the New York Times in them. So just fun, kind of classic but neutral way to elevate different objects on the tabletop so that everything's not one height. So coming in from the formal parts of the house, we move into the kitchen and the family area. And this center table is a table I always like to set up, sort of announcing the holiday, or in the summer I have lots of fresh flowers from the garden. In this case, obviously, we've got it set up for Easter. And so I just think it's super fun to decorate it and sort of announce what's happening in life and time at the moment. We started off with our tree branches and decorated them with all sorts of spring ornaments, spring and Easter. So of course we have eggs, we have butterflies, we have all kinds of flowers, we have nests, just all kinds of little treasures to look at for Easter. And then on top of it, well, we had to balance things out with a giant chocolate bunny. Of course, he's not really chocolate, but he looks pretty edible. And then accompanying him, we've got our little fuzzy ducks of different sizes, lots of little nests about, and fresh flowers, and then of course some glitter eggs so that we have just a little bit of glamour to our Easter setting here. So now let me take you into the kitchen where we've got our breakfast, Easter breakfast banquet all set up. So we've got our kitchen banquet set up for Easter morning breakfast with all the grandkids. And we did it in a way that I hope it feels elegant, but also fun and playful, and rather Easter sweet. So we started with our regular dinner place settings and then just added different little accessories to make it feel especially Easterish. One of my favorite things on the table, the centerpiece, is this vintage Easter basket. So this is a basket I got years ago, and I don't use it to put eggs in. I use it to put plants and obviously one little decorative egg. Then the other thing that we've got on our table is these lovely little Easter crafts, and I've got them sort of being the star of the show in the center of the table so that you can see and appreciate their tiny details. We've got little bunny vases, we've got our egg cups, and then of course lots of chocolate and other bunnies filled with little eggs and fun little presents at each place setting. So all sort of making it extra special for Easter morning breakfast. Our family has a big relationship with pancakes. The kids all love pancakes, and that was the very first date that my husband asked me on, to go eat pancakes. So anyway, we have a very sentimental association with pancakes. So at the end of our table, here on the windowsill, we've got a planter filled with all kinds of pansies and ground cover, and it's something that I'm going to show you how to make downstairs in our craft room, a smaller version of, but I think it's extra special and can be used for not just Easter, but all kinds of holidays. So now follow me to the kitchen dining, and it's all set up for Easter dinner. So in this space, we didn't want it to feel too childish. Again, I wanted it to feel a little more sophisticated for an Easter dinner. We've got lots of spaces outside that feel very playful and are certainly kid-friendly. And so I'm going to show you all those bright, festive Easter colors in just a little bit. But for our Easter dining evening experience, we wanted it to feel just a little more grown-up and sophisticated and serious. After all, it is Easter. So we've got a real high and low here in terms of our dishes. Our regular dinnerware is by Hudson Grays, and then we've got these little melamine bowls that are really from Hobby Lobby. So super cute, but do exactly what we want them to do, sort of give us a little bit of a playful look, but not too playful or not too childish. Then we've also got our little gingham placemats and gingham napkins with, of course, pansy napkin rings, and then we also have little vintage embroidered napkins as well. So giving us just sort of a fun, festive Easter look. For our flowers, we've got simple daisies, and then of course we've accented our table with these little vintage jars filled with eggs. So each of our guests gets a little jar, a special little candy jar to take home. We've got bird nests and Easter ornaments, rabbits, and all kinds of Easter characters throughout, ornaments that we've just used sitting next to each place setting. I think the fun and different thing that we've done here is use butterflies in our arrangements. So we've stuck butterflies throughout our floral arrangements, and then also over our fireplace and throughout the rest of the room. They're just little hints of butterflies and spring throughout. Even on our center tree, we've got giant butterflies floating, and it just sort of mixes it up a little bit and makes it very spring-like. So one of the things I'm going to show you down in the craft room how to make is this carrot rabbit Easter gift that is for one of my grandchildren. So I'm going to show you how you can make some of these for your grandchildren or your children too. So now we're going to head to the outside patios, but we'll take a quick sneak peek into the family room. So what I'd like to share with you about the family room is that our decorations are very minimal in here. So some spaces I really try to keep with just a few elements and have it be a little less of an explosion, an Easter explosion or holiday explosion. It just provides a little bit of eye relief. So on this outside patio, we have it set up for our after Easter egg hunt lunch. And so I've got it set up especially for my grandchildren and children. We started with our fun little Easter baskets in the middle, these felt little baskets, and filled them with primroses. So it made a very simple floral arrangement, and they can be taken out and planted in the garden afterwards. So that's a very fun place to start. To make our table setting playful and festive for the kids and very durable, we've used this melamine dinnerware, and this is all super great stuff, all different kinds of colors that work great for summer by the pool, or in our case are fantastic for our Easter setting. And what we've done is mix all of our place settings together, giving us this this colorful setting, and these can't be hurt by the children because they're plastic. And these are just available from Hobby Lobby, so they're super inexpensive and they work great by the pool and great here at our Easter setting. So the other thing that you'll notice on our table is we've got all these different little characters. So some are fun little paper crafts and others are just little figurines, and I love to use these on my table settings, if not on shelves, but if I've got a table set up so that you can enjoy them up close. And they add a lot of playfulness, the kids love them. Then of course at each table setting we have packages tied with felt, flowers, and tiny chicks on top, tiny fuzzy chicks on top. So just again adding a tiny detail that makes it fun and whimsical. We have carrots scattered throughout, also on our napkin rings, and then at each place setting we also have tiny Easter baskets filled with primroses and a packet of seed, so that each of my grandchildren can plant flowers in the garden after lunch. So coming from the deck, we're now going to talk about the pool cabana. And in these outside spaces, you're going to see that I wanted it to look like Easter. So big time Easter, especially for the kids and the egg hunt. So we didn't try to do anything subtle here. We wanted it to be in a fun explosion of Easter color. So we've started with our little feather tree in the middle. We used a pink tree, so he's especially Easter-ish. We've got a rabbit dressed up, lots of tiny wood ornaments. So as you can see this year, butterflies have been part of our Easter theme. So on the table, we've got felt Easter baskets that are butterflies, and inside them we have toys for the kids. So we have ducks that are actually chalk, and yo-yos and little treats inside the bag. On top of the table, we've got our regular dinnerware, but little packages with crochet butterflies on top, of course. Adding to our Easter decor, we have flowers, bunnies, and of course more butterflies everywhere. So we've got butterflies scattered about our table, and then also hanging with our eggs from our rafters up above. And across our fireplace we have a garland with bunnies, eggs, flowers, and of course our butterflies. So now we're downstairs in the craft room, and I'm going to show you how to make 3 fun Easter crafts. We're going to start with this little egg. So this is a little wooden egg, and he's just actually an unpainted egg, and these are kind of available from Amazon. They have a different bottom. I like this because it's got a flat bottom and it stands up easily, but you can at least buy the egg-shaped wooden off of Amazon. So we purchased an egg, and this is my example, but I'm going to do one that's a little bit different. So you can do all kinds of things and be as creative as you want. But this little guy, we painted him, we've got trim, and we painted his inside, and then we've got this adorable little chocolate bunny on the inside. So this makes a great little favor gift or a tabletop gift. You can do all kinds of things. So we trimmed this and then put one of these little tassels on top, and he just becomes this elegant little beauty. So today we're going to start with our natural raw wood egg, and we're going to paint him. In this case, we're going to use pink. So we're going to do this guy a fun Easter pink, and we're just going to paint his outside. And I found that I needed several layers of paint. It kind of absorbs right into the wood. So it takes several coats. But so he's basically going to be a pretty pink color on the outside. Of course, we'd want to paint his bottom, trying to keep a nice clean finish here. And then on the inside, we will do this guy. Again, you can do whatever colors work with your house or that are fun for you, that depending on who you might be giving this to. In this case, I'm going to paint the inside of this guy this gold. And again, it's going to take 2 to 3 layers to get a nice little finish. And you're probably going to need a tiny brush to do along the top, along this little detailed area. A lot of the little paper crafts that I've used on my tabletops, or the little figurines, those are things that are my little Easter treasures that I've used year after year and collected. And I love to be able to use them in the middle of a table, not just on a bookshelf or something, but in the middle of a table, so you can really sit and kind of enjoy. Okay, so the next stage on our painted egg, and this guy could actually use another coat of paint, but for the sake of our episode and to show you what's next, we're going to skip that. So it's not going to look quite as good as it would. But for our next stage, we're going to use a trim. And in this case, I have this fun little lace, and this is available. This is available just at a Joann's, a Michael, a Hobby Lobby. So, but we're going to give it this pretty little lace on top of our pink, and we're going to put it on both sides, kind of like we did with this one. But you could do all kinds of things. So in this case, I'm going to use my glue gun, and I'm going to just dab a little bit so I can place it. Just a thin little line, and then I'm going to put this guy on here, giving it enough space so that it can close easily. But so we just do a nice little clean edge and little teeny dabs of glue to hold it in place all the way around. He just looks so fresh and Easterish, you can tell. So there are all kinds of things that you could do. I have little tiny velvet ribbons. I have this is a little lace, almost like a little seam binding that you would get in the sewing section of your craft store. And this is a super easy craft, and you could just use glue instead of the hot glue gun if you wanted. But this would be a great craft to do with kids as well. And I probably actually will make some of these with my grandchildren too. I could tell the girls liked these. So now once the ribbon is glued, and I'm not going to push this down and seal it all the way because the paint's still a little tacky and we don't want it to seal shut. But so at least we've got our ribbon on, and now to make this guy a little bit different than his friend over here, we're actually going to put a little butterfly on top. You can see how cute he is. So we've got these two little friends next to each other, very simple, and you could do whatever version that you would like. And so, of course, remember, for the inside, we've got our little rabbit on the inside. You could put a jelly bean, you could put a couple, you could put some other little treat. But it's kind of super fun, little surprise on the inside. You could paint designs. We did a solid color, kind of super cute and delicate, and the fact that they're wood with their little trims, they'll last each year. And you'll remember, you can even sign the bottom and put the year on that you made them, which would be super fun. So next I'm going to show you how to make this adorable little carrot toy for one of your grandchildren or your children. So for this little project, we basically started with a cone shape. So this is just a paper craft cone shape. And we also have got some crepe paper. We need paint brushes, we need scissors, we need different ribbon, and perhaps some green crepe paper as well, some PVA type glue, and paint brushes and a glue gun. And then also probably an artificial flower if you just want to add a little bit of fun. Oh, and then I had some needlepoint metallic thread and some green gumballs. So I bet you didn't know that the little guy hanging off the edge of this is actually an edible gumball. So he's just a little fun doodad to the end, but he just adds a little bit of playfulness and fun. Oh, and then of course you need some kind of little animal for the inside or whatever you'd like to put in your package. For us, it's Easter, so of course we've used rabbits, but you could also do this as a birthday gift and do different colors and things and do something else. But because I wanted it to feel like a giant carrot, of course a rabbit seemed only too appropriate for the inside. So to start off, because I wanted my rabbit to fit inside my cone, I used this medium size cone. But if you wanted to do something smaller, of course, you could size it down. In this case, so what I did is I laid my crepe paper out and then I placed it on with the point towards the very bottom edge. And you can see where we can wrap it pretty easily this way, keeping things smooth and roll it as we go. So that makes it a lot easier to apply a paper this way. So we start off using our PVC glue, and I actually paint it on the cone itself. So you want to use this kind of glue because it works really well with a paper craft and it dries clear and it doesn't absorb into the paper quite the same way that like an Elmer's glue or something would. So this is specifically made for paper crafts. So I start off by lightly painting the corner at least part way down, getting enough glue that you feel like it's going to stick, but not too much glue where it bleeds through too much. And what I had to do on my first round of making this was I actually had to wrap it twice because it did seem to want to bleed through. So you may have to do that too. So don't be surprised if when you're wrapping it wants to come through the crepe paper. It's so thin. And you want to be kind of delicate with the crepe paper because you want it to retain those crinkles, so it kind of feels more like a natural carrot that way. It gives it a little more character. So in this case, as you saw, I'm going to place him on there. I'm going to place him towards the end because I want a little bit to go on the end. And I'm going to smooth it out and then gently roll it. Not pulling too tight, smoothing the edge across, not pressing too hard, and then wrapping. So there we go. We've got our nice little shape. He's following through, and then we've got extra, so I'm going to paint some more glue here. And let's see, there we go. I'm going to get a little more on this area here, so he'll wrap. Hopefully he'll stick there. Okay, and then we're going to trim this. So of course we need our scissors. It really doesn't take too much paper. We're going to trim a couple inches above it so we have something to tuck into the inside of our cone. And there, he's not laying totally flat here, but we can smooth it down a little bit. Going around. A nice little cut around. So there we've got our nice little shape, and he's still, as you can see, our glue is bleeding through a little bit, but it will dry. And then we've got enough to tuck in on the inside. But what I would do with this, I would seal my edges a little bit better so that our paper is staying down a little better. And then I would let this dry, and then I would wrap it one more time, because what you're going to find, and what I found with mine, is he really became less translucent when I wrapped him one more time. So he just felt a little bit richer, and this is not dry, so it doesn't look its best yet. But so that's what I would do next. I would wrap it one more time, and then after both layers were on here, then I would take this, tuck it down, and again, you're going to want to glue on the inside of this and tuck so you get a nice clean top finish edge to it. My kids just always loved an egg hunt, and particularly my girls always went about it in a delicate way, you know, picking up each little treasure. But my son would leap and race and love the scavenger hunt of it all, and love collecting as many eggs as fast as he could. So it was so fun just to see the difference between the boys and the girls, and actually see how cute and well they played together doing this egg hunt. So we did egg hunts from the time they were little, and then even through college we would be hiding eggs. Now of course, I hope it's okay to say, but sometimes we'd hide them with actually money or gift cards inside on top of the candy as they got older. So the college kids liked that a lot better than the jelly beans. Okay, so now we have this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one more time. I just think it's so fun to celebrate as a family these different holidays, and no matter what it is, sort of making it as fun as you can. And all these little things I do, I'm just trying to make it that much more fun and special, and hopefully magical for my family and for my kids. You know, life is hard enough, so it's special to have these little holiday moments together. Okay, so hopefully this gives us enough of a second layer. My children have always said that I add the pixie dust to life, and I hope that's true. So by doing these special things, it makes everything that much more fun and playful, and so I think that's not such a bad way to be remembered by my children or my grandchildren. The pixie dust of life. I love crafting with my grandchildren, and I feel so lucky because they all love to do crafts, and all of it is just so fun for them, and it's so fun for me and fun to do with them. So I do everything from literally have them participate in this decor that I'm doing for you guys here today, or little crafts that I find, at Michael's or one of the craft stores that are little kits that are like age appropriate for them. So it depends on who's helping me make things and what age they are. But they all seem to love to do crafts, and I don't know if it's because I'm so crafty and all little kids like to do crafts. I'm not really sure, but I feel so lucky that that they do like to do these things, and they make things, and then these are their treasures that they take home, and so it's super fun. I get to know them better when we're doing crafts, and it's just a lovely time to be together. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a long strip along the edge of our paper, and probably about, just depending on how big you want your fringe, but just to show you an example. So if you notice our little fringe here, this was a little trim that we made ourselves, and all we did was take a strip, and then we just made little cuts all along the edge. And you could do this as big or as little as you want. And then we basically did this, we ruffled it up so it had nice little texture. And then he's the next thing that gets glued on. So we glued him on about a 1/2 inch down from our top, and we went all the way around with our glue. But now I would wait till this dried nice and clean, and then I would put this on using the same type of glue. And then the next thing that we did, so very simple, very easy, out of our same paper, the next thing that we did was take a ribbon and we glued it on top of our fringe. So we've got our ribbon glued on next, and then we've got our hanger, if you want a short hanger, a long hanger, whatever you want. These are 2 different strips that glued on the inside that we've hung down. And then of course we wanted to add a little more detail. So I'm all about the details, the tiny details on these things. And so then I added yet another layer of this tiny velvet ribbon, and that's just on top. And then I did each of these, I glued at the back, nice clean back to it, and glued overlapping at the back. So it made a nice little detail to the top, and that was on there next. The next thing we did, and this is, I think, a fun little thing. So I was going to make my leaves out of crepe paper and cut them in shapes and glue them on the inside. And then I found this great little faux lettuce at Hobby Lobby, and I thought this was so ingenious. I loved it. I thought it was just absolutely beautiful. It looked so real, and I basically cut it apart. So it's a whole, you could make several guys out of this. So I basically cut the little leaves off, and then I used my glue gun and put glue on the very end of it and on the bottom here, and pressed it on the inside. So then it's gonna glue, and you're gonna layer each piece and kind of do this all around the edge, and that makes this great little home for the guy peeking out. So that then happens next on the inside, going all the way around. The last thing that we did to finish up our guy, well, we did add this little faux guy. So you can do whatever you like. I happen to love, this is a silk flower. I cut something up like this that had several on it. And then he was also hot glued on the inside here. So he just adds a touch of color and a touch of playfulness to our rabbit. And then the very last thing that we did was take a a bigger needlepoint needle and poke it through our gumball with a nice little metallic needlepoint thread. And that made our little tassel hanging from the edge. So certainly not anything you have to do, but it's certainly funny that it is edible, and it's just kind of funny. I think you could make several if you wanted, just adding again the little detail to the special rabbit. Here's the Easter centerpiece that I showed you upstairs, and this can be made as big or small as you want. It could be made for Easter. This one I made especially for Easter with my little bird and my nest on top. But you could actually change this and make it for a baby shower or a birthday party or just a garden party. What I've done in this particular instance is use light color terracotta pots. And again, you could use any color pot. You could use a regular terracotta pot. This happened to go in my decor. I purposefully chose these colors because that's what I had inside my house and I knew would go well in my house and in my space. So I wanted it to be additive and an accent and not take away from what was already happening with my regular decor. So in this case today, we're going to make a much smaller version because we may not have time to do all these layers, but you could on your own, you'll get the gist and you'll be able to do whatever you'd like to do in your own version of this craft. But so what we did is I want to show you the materials we've got first. We've got terracotta saucers, and in this case, different sizes going up. And we've got our plants. I chose my palette of plants based on what was going to be pretty in my house and with my particular table setting. Then we've also got a little sprig of artificial flowers, and you'll see what we're going to do with these in a minute, and this great little moss trim. So this was a little bit harder to find, but I was able to find some. It comes in a roll, and I was able to find some on Amazon, but you can also find a twine type, and that would work as well too. You could do it with regular twine if you wanted, but that's actually this material that we used here. And it actually was called like super moss. So this might be a good example for you. And then of course on the top of mine, I used a nest. So here's a plain nest. You could do one with eggs. You could do one. This one's got birds and a little bit of artificial material. So I wouldn't be afraid of taking something that you find and cutting it up and adding things that that work for your space. And you don't have to use it just like it is as you find it in a craft store. You can improvise and do what works for you. So in this case, I've started with a bigger saucer on the bottom here, but because we're going to do a small version, we're going to start with a saucer about this size. And so the one thing to think about with this, I did not glue my pots together because I wasn't sure how I was going to like it, if I was going to use it. Again, I'm always replanting and changing things in my garden, so I didn't know if I would want to be able to take it apart and do that. So I did not glue them together, but I would suggest if you plan on doing something like this and you need to move it, it would be a lot more stable, obviously, if you did glue it together with a glue gun. But for the purpose of what we're going to do today and maybe being able to use your pots all over again, all you do is place your pot upside down, put it on its saucer, and then we took I've got my little tiny plants. I'm going to put my little garden gloves on here, but I'm going to make quite a little mess. But I've got my little plants, and I'm going to start with some little alyssum. We're going to pull it gently out of the bottom and shake off a bunch of the dirt. So it can't be very deep. That's the challenge with this, is that it can't be very deep because we don't have a lot of space. So we're basically going to tuck him in there, and then just depending on how we want this to look, we just take our little plants and tuck them all the way around the side. So obviously be gentle with their roots, take off quite a bit at the bottom, and then we're placing them all around. So in this case, where I did my little double scallop with my moss trim, I divided this in three spaces, just so I could tell where I wanted it to start and where I wanted it to end, and then make my loop around. Now you might decide that you want a different pattern. You could stripe it around, you could zigzag it around, you could make it look like a trellis, and so it could go up and down and all over the place. So you could do little loops around, whatever pattern you want. I did this little loop, and like I said, I did it in 3 separate pieces going around. So I kind of measured, it went around, pulled up, and then each of these I hot glued on. Okay, so we basically have our little loop. And on mine, I was a little more specific in terms of my measurements, because I wanted my little loops to be about the same going around, but just for the sake of showing you. So then I basically place a dot of hot glue, and I place him on there on the back firmly. So he does a nice little stick. I go around and up like that, and then I glue the other side. I'm trying to do this backwards. And then I would go underneath little tiny beads and glue each spot and hold it. So you're going to have to push down on each little spot, and so it wants to hug it. So you just kind of do that all the way around, because it looks prettier when it really looks like it's stuck to and on there. And then the next stage, I would just do another one, another loop on the inside. So we're going to do the exact same thing, cut it and glue it. So I made sure these tops kind of went together, and then my scallop kind of came down. So I kind of did that, but you can do anything, like I said, that you want. But then at each of those points, what I did was take a little flower, and I just cut them off. This was just a little sprig of faux flowers. You can do whatever you want. There's obviously all kinds of colors, all kinds of fun things that you could add. Again, I wanted something that was subtle and gentle to the rest of my look. I wanted these flowers to stand out, my real flowers, and these just to be a little detail. So these actually get hot glued on wherever you want. And perhaps if it was a baby shower, maybe you'd use pink or blue. You might do something different. You could use bigger flowers, smaller flowers. These just had a nice little tiny look and kind of repeated the shape of some of the other actual real flowers that I have in here. So anyway, you can kind of see what's happening here. We've got our little moss trim. We've got that's all hot glued on. So you have to take your time and delicately do little teeny beads so you don't see the glue going around. But each of these is placed on and glued on around in these scallop designs. Then we've glued our little flowers on, and then the rest of it is really just the planting. In this case, you know, just depending on what you wanted to do, you could put a little, you could do the bird's nest on top too. Okay, so now let me turn him around. Okay, so this is only obviously he's partially done, but you can see, I mean, how fun is he? And in this case, we've got this little nest that we've just bought like he was. We could add other little flowers. We could add some more of our faux flowers if we wanted here. In this case, I added more little guys on here. He felt like he needed it. And of course, we could attach our little butterfly to the top in any sort of color that we want. Because again, we have a butterfly theme happening this year. So that sort of gives you an idea of how this guy is made. And this guy is, I've got a little vase with a bird on the top in a bigger nest, but this is kind of super fun. And you could even put another little pot on the top with flowers coming out. So there are lots of different things that you could do to make this your own creation. Visiting Homeworthy and checking out our Easter designs. I've got to go. We've got another egg hunt to participate in. Bye.